So how can we achieve good sleep? How can we achieve much sleep at all? But also when we've got chronic pain, or say you've got like chronic joint pain or chronic illness, really of any kind, how can we achieve something that I think is quite elusive for us really, which is good quality sleep. And it's like there's a little devil on your shoulder with a trident poking you, you know, in your brain, going, the pain is going, wake up, wake up, wake up, you know, or there's a little imp on your shoulder going, wake up, wake up. It gets a bit overwhelming, and it gets a bit like it's too much. Let's pause and just say, yay, yay team, yay. Yay team for being here today. And like, you know, if you're trying to understand your symptoms, maybe good for you. If you're trying to improve your quality of life, good for you. If you're someone who doesn't have pain but you're here because you want to try to gain more understanding of someone you know who does, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Right. If you would like to look up any of the terms, you can go to the Mayo Clinic or NHS, or for some of these conditions as well, charities are a really good place. Or maybe on the other hand, you're tired and after this video you're just gonna have a rest and a cup of tea. So I'm gonna take you through some tips and suggestions. These are based on my own personal experience. At my most acute phase, I was pretty much only getting about 2 hours sleep a night, maybe. Some nights, yeah, it was pretty extreme. And again, you know, for us, I come back to the repetition. Everyone can do that maybe for a few months or even 6 months. Or maybe a person could cope with that for a long time if they weren't dealing with chronic pain and chronic illness on top of it. That I think what gets to a person is the repetition. It's all very well being sleep deprived for a short period of time, or even maybe 6 months, but after that, you know, it really starts to have an impact. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you know what I did. It may not work for you guys, but sincerely, hopefully it will. We're looking at 3 steps. Okay, there are 3 main sort of ways of trying to achieve this, and I would, I suppose, emphasize that it's really a matter of experimentation for whatever works for you. The 3 are relaxation, counter irritation, yeah, and the third one is, what's the third one? It's upside down. Central nervous system. Distract and or relax the central nervous system. So when I'm talking about the central nervous system, I'm talking about this fight or flight type situation. Okay. Many of you guys may already know about this, but the current sort of medical theory about a lot of chronic pain, you know, whether it be back pain, knee pain, neck pain, whether it's joint, whether it's arthritic, whether it's chronic illness. So there's a current medical theory behind this, that the fight or flight system is engaged. And you may have heard these terms already, but if you haven't, I'll put them down in the description and you can have a Google of them if you think it would be helpful for you. The fight or flight system is also known as the sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite, which is the system which is responsible, they call it the rest and relaxation system. And I think I'm going to try and do another video on these just to give a layperson's explanation. The theory is that being in pain, obviously, you know, that causes kind of a stress response. And they know that the stress response in the body, the fight or flight brain fog. And they know that the fight or flight system causes the release of things like stress hormones. And also they think that it can sort of almost encourage the nerves, which are responsible for pain impulses going to the brain. So they can kind of encourage the nerves to become, I suppose in layman's terms, like a bit hyperactive. So they think that receptors in the nerves start sending more signals. And you may, if you've gone to a doctor, they may have mentioned stress hormones to you. And I had a doctor once mention hormones to me, and I was like, I thought he meant female hormones. I was like, is he talking about estrogen? What is going on? What? But what I think what they're talking about is the stress hormones, like you will have heard adrenaline and cortisol. What I found about trying to get to sleep with chronic pain is about bringing the fight or flight responses down, bringing the sensation of physical pain down, and then you bring your distress levels down. Maybe think about it in terms of an engine that's been over revved. You know, when you're changing gears and the revs on the car go. I hope that's helpful. I don't know if you've ever gone to a doctor and they've asked you to rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, you probably, if you've been to a doctor about pain, they've probably asked you to do this. You get asked it a lot after a while. So I think what's really difficult is trying to fall asleep when your pain has like ratcheted up to the level of, say, like for me, 7, 8 out of 10. I think, you know, in my experience, forget about it. Like you just can't really at that point drop off to sleep. Maybe you can try it and you can do it. But for me, it has to be, the pain has to come down to maybe 5, like ideally 4 out of 10. That's been my experience anyway. So, you know, try it yourself, see how you get on. But I think the thing with being up at 6, 7, 8 out of 10, you know, those higher levels of pain is no matter how exhausted you are, your body is exhausted, your brain is exhausted, and all you want to do really is fall asleep. And it's like there's a little devil on your shoulder with a trident poking you, you know, in your brain going, the pain is going, wake up, wake up, wake up, you know, or there's a little imp on your shoulder going, wake up, wake up. So every time you get to the point where you're just like, oh my God, I just want to sleep, he's there going. Also, what I would say about that situation is actually it's quite a distressing situation to be in, guys. And it's hard for us to explain to people who haven't been through it, but when your body is just crying out for sleep and you just think, gosh, you know, I would just love to be able to fall asleep, but you can't because that, you know, the pain is so overwhelming. So what we're trying to do is bring all of that down, bring the distress down, everything comes down, and then you can drift off to sleep. And for me, it's at about 4 out of 10, but ideally 3. But it's doable at 4, I think, right? Like, you know, anyway, we're looking at 3 steps. Okay, there are 3 main sort of ways of trying to achieve this. Physical relaxation, I'm talking about first. So let's hopefully get ourselves into a position, hopefully you have some kind of position that it's where you can relieve your physical pain. Now that might be, you know, on a bed, it might be on a chair. A very helpful occupational therapist assessor once told me, she just looked at me, she was like, yeah, I just think you need all the cushions in the world. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, just experiment, just have a play around. So maybe you can move your knee into a position where it's not that, where the pain comes down a little bit, but you can't hold it there because that creates muscle tension. So just prop it up with a pillow, okay? Or for me, as well, lying flat is the position actually that's sort of most, you know, likely to reduce the physical pain. So our next point is counter irritation. And this kind of goes a little bit with the getting into a comfortable physical position. But usually it's just involving applying some heat or some cold. Whatever works for you, maybe medium heat. I do if I think my arms, my motor control is good enough, sometimes I'll do a hot water bottle. Obviously, if you're at risk of scalding yourself, some of us with poor motor control, the old kettle is a bit of a possibly not the safest thing for us to be using. So you can get little electric blankies that plug in. You can get your favorite cold pack from the freezer. Whatever works for you, really. Counter irritation. Sorry, I was going to explain counter irritation, wasn't I? It's a pretty old concept in pain relief, but really the idea is that you're sort of producing a nerve impulse or a nerve sensation that is, I guess in layman's terms, I don't think it quite works this way, but in layman's terms it's sort of like a distraction for the nervous system. And you may have seen ointments in the supermarket or your pharmacy. The one most commonly available in the UK is called Deep Heat, and it produces a gentle burning sensation on your skin. And what that's doing is it's like a mild discomfort that it's creating in a different place, and then it kind of draws the sense of pain. It kind of minimizes and reduces the sense of pain in your main painful area. Counter irritation is the theory. It's very old, but I think that when you apply cold or heat, like in the form of a heated blanket or a cold pack to your painful area, I suspect that there's an element of counter irritation going on there as well. The other thing that those things do is, they kind of produce a blood flow change. So heat is generally thought of as increasing like some of the blood flow to the area. So again, you're just physically changing what's going on in the area, and maybe, you're helping it to relax a little bit. So that's what we're aiming for. I'm trying to keep this speedy, so as speedy as I can. I don't want to keep you for too long. The third step, this is kind of 2 steps in one actually, but the third step is to kind of relax the flight or fight system and relax the sympathetic nervous system. I do this by trying any sort of relaxing activity. So whatever you think will put your brain into what you're trying to do is just put your brain away from the distressful pain kind of place and bring it back to somewhere where you just feel kind of calm. So that, whatever that is for you, I think there has been pretty solid research now on like the calming effects on the brain of doing fine things with your hands if you can. So knitting, crafting, crochet. You might do woodwork or something. Another thing is meditation. There's pretty solid research on that now. They've had Buddhist monks in brain scanners, and they can see positive areas of the brain lighting up. You can also do something like, watch your favorite video, watch your favorite, screen. Whatever it is you think will work for you. You may be able to read a book, or if you can't hold on to a book, you can use an audiobook. But these are just ideas and suggestions. I leave it to you to think about how you could work these in. The other thing that I was mentioning in this tip is pacing. So pacing is a known chronic pain management technique that is recommended here in the UK. It's recommended in the NHS pain management toolkit. I think what I would say about pacing, guys, is depending on your pain level, you have to take pacing to like extreme lengths. So when I was first told about pacing, I thought they meant, take a 5-minute break when you're trying to do a tough activity, an activity that ramps up your pain levels. Try to take a 5-minute break. No, sometimes pacing actually means you have to physically lie down for half an hour, because that's the only way to bring the pain level down. So what I would say about nighttime activities is, you know, your nighttime routine before you go to bed. Sorry, that sounded wrong. Nighttime activities. Your nighttime, you know, routine of before you go to bed is you kind of have to start breaking it up. We have to stop thinking about, with chronic pain, the way normal people do things, it's not really an option for us anymore. So if you want to kind of bring those pain levels down to something that's kind of manageable. So a normal person, how does a normal person get ready for bed? Well, you know, they brush their teeth, they get changed into their pajamas, whatever. They might take a shower, they might put the garbage out, they might put the rubbish out. And they do that all in one continuous run. If you do that, probably what's going to happen, I mean, I'm talking from my experience here, but you know, you may feel the same. As you do that, your pain levels ramp up. So you think to yourself, oh, I'll just take a run at it, and you try and do everything in one go. It just doesn't work, and it drives the pain up, up, up. So what I do is I intersperse my nighttime routine with the calming, all of the calming things that I've just spoken about. And that seems to work, but sometimes some things just have to go. Like maybe you take your rubbish out, you know, the following day, or maybe you just go to sleep in the clothes that you're wearing because you can't change into your pajamas. And that's just the way it's got to be. You may be listening to this thinking, this is not workable. Like, you're preaching to the choir, guys. I know what you're talking about, because when I was at my most acute stage and I had, you know, I was getting, as I said, some nights like 2 hours a night of sleep in a night, and I had pain down, you know, my limbs that was so strong that I really couldn't, you know, function very well. This, you know, routine means you do have to start getting ready for bed earlier. So it takes a while, you know. I think it takes a few hours, maybe even more. And you may say to me, it's not workable, it's not practical. You're preaching to the choir. But on the other hand, maybe it brings some improvement for you. What's an immense relief is if your sleep can get to the point where it's quality sleep so that your body actually is resting. And some days you wake up and your pain is gone down. You know, your pain's gone, reduced. And you think, oh, actually, you know, this is a relief then, because you're like, oh, I get to start the day feeling a little bit better. You will have seen, if you've been Googling, there's plenty of advice online about the standard recommended ways of how to improve insomnia generally, like for people who can't sleep, not because they're in pain, because they can't sleep. And all of those are also useful for us. So some of them are a bit difficult to apply. Like one of them is usually that you should move from your bed to a different place, like a sofa or something. And you know, you might find that actually the sofa or a chair in your living room, they're really uncomfortable. So that's not necessarily going to help you. But I think the general idea of changing a little bit, you know, of what they don't recommend is basically staying in the position of being in bed and then fretting about not sleeping. And actually that's going to add to your emotional distress. So what you can do is look at those tips. They're all out there. You could find ways of maybe changing those tips so that they work for you. Maybe you can go get a drink of hot milk. They say now that hot milk doesn't have any sleep promoting chemicals in it anymore. I think they've found that it's a wives' tale, old wives' tale. It's an old wives' tale, they say. But maybe it's just comforting, and that's good enough, and that helps you to drift off. Or maybe you get up and you read something, you know, that's a little bit dry. and it kind of slowly lulls you off to sleep. So those tips are out there. They're helpful for us. You can look at them, experiment for yourself, but obviously not all of them are going to be, you're not going to be able to apply all of those in the same way that a person who has like a full range of motion and normal energy levels can apply them. I think that the overall idea behind those tips though is they're solid, and they may be hopefully of help to you. Take it easy, you guys. Look after yourselves, go gently on yourselves, and I will see you soon.